Still Money Line with Nancy. Let's start our conversation now. Before the break, I did say I'll be joined by Dr. Obadiah Malafia, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. He's still on his way. We're expecting him in the next few minutes. But Mr. Johnson Chuwu is joining me from Lagos on Skype. He's the chief exec at Cowry Asset Management. Mr. Chuwu, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Good morning and happy birthday in arrears.
Thank you, Mr. Chuwu. Thank you. Thank you very much. I also saw the message from your company yesterday, Cowry Asset Management. I saw the message, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, you were smiling earlier on when my director punched you on air. Why were you smiling? Is there anything to smile? Me, I'm not smiling, no. I'm not even smiling at all. Tell me.
Well, let's start with the weather. The weather here in Lagos is very clement. The sun is not too harsh. And there are reasons to be smiling and there are reasons to be happy. One, we are alive. Two, we are healthy. And three, it was your birthday yesterday.
I know you were just going to be smart about my question that, there should be also a reason to smile in the midst of all this that is happening, for one to be alive, that's a good thing. And, perhaps it was my birthday yesterday. I added another year, so I should also give glory to my creator. So there should be a reason to smile. So I'm smiling. Thank you for reminding me again, But let's go straight to the matter of the day, the state of the economy and the state of the nation. The economy is so impacted by everything that happens, one way or the other, directly or indirectly. Talk to me about how businesses and markets are feeling, especially with, what's happening socially around the country. You don't need me to tell you what happened yesterday. Yesterday, almost all the media, social media as well as traditional media, had pictures of what's happening, the police or the security forces in the country as a result of the Revolution Now protest. In fact, watching it as a business analyst and, seeing what is happening, it was not good optics for me, and perhaps also good optics for the nation as a country and our reputation, because not just that we're watching it here in Nigeria, people are also watching. Local and foreign investors are watching. Talk to me about how the markets and businesses are feeling and what you're saying at this time.
I think what we are looking at is a heightened state of what's happening in the economic space. What you observe is that a lot of investors are apprehensive. People are worried which direction the country will go. In fact, there's actually a heightened concern about the going concern concept of the country. And you know what I mean by going concern concept of the country as a nation. We've seen a lot of factors pulling from different directions. And the past 2 weeks have not been very pleasant in the history of this country. If you look at what has happened in the past 2 weeks, we've seen situations whereby the sheriff there was a report that a deputy commissioner of police was killed, and then you had a youth couple who was talking with one of the media houses was also killed, and we also heard stories that several members of that state were also killed. Then from there we moved on to the agitation for a revolution, where Chuwu has been arrested, and the members of that group say they're going to go ahead with their demonstration. They are seeking for revolution. The reality is that these are the things you see, ordinarily would expect to see if you are approaching an election period. But to be happening at a time when we just came out of an election period is of greater concern. Ideally, after an election and the government is inaugurated and the minister appointed, there should be some level of euphoria, a feeling of optimism. But that's not what we are having now. We rather have a lot of concerns about the state of kidnapping going on, space of agitation by diverse groups to go their own separate ways. And now we have added to that an agitation for a revolution. And then you are still dealing with the issues in the northeast, Boko Haram, and the herdsmen in North Central and you add to all these challenges around the country. So for investors, there is a heightened level of concern. There's a heightened level of doubt about the going concern viability of the country. And for me, that's a clarion call for the government to do. We need to address this concern. We need to address this regulation. We need to find out what is wrong with the social fabric of the country. We need to also create economic opportunity that will reduce the number of people who are seeking for outlets to ventilate their frustration.
You know, for me, taking a look at the whole situation is not a pretty one actually for Nigeria, especially with what's happening right now around the world. Take a look at Hong Kong. They've had 9 straight weekends of protest. In fact, over 1 million people, and young people at that, are marching and saying, putting out their demands there to their leaders in Hong Kong, as well as China, as to what they want. Now, with what we're seeing right now in Nigeria, you just said it, the Shiites protests from just like 2-3 weeks ago. That has been going on too for a while. The deaths that were recorded, also the Revolution Now protest and all of that. What are investors really telling you? Because you know, you have a link with people that want to come into Nigeria. You see these things and you trade the markets. What are they really telling you at this time? I know I'm asking because last week, NIPC, the Investment Promotion Council, is it Investment Promotion Commission now, did say that Nigeria recorded $15.5 billion in investment announcements. Investment announcement means, oh, we're interested, though, you know, but we are still looking, and we have the money, you know, but we're still looking how your country is. What are these investors telling you at this time with everything that is happening socio-politically? Let me put it that way.
My interaction with investors, particularly foreign investors, indicate that they are very wary of the direction of the country. One, they don't seem to see clearly which direction the country is going in terms of policies, in terms of particularly the worsening insecurity in the country. And I tell you, Nancy, the challenge is that once you begin to have insecurity in this Federal Capital Territory, and then you also have, because that has been like an oasis that has been insulated to some reasonable extent from the crisis and the madness going on in that part of the country. When you begin to see this affect this, the Federal Capital Territory and also moving towards Lagos, because the kidnapping that took place of the ministers going to redeem camp, I mean, happened on Lagos Shagamu Express Road, so which is quite close to Lagos, and they are concerned. There are areas in the southwest that people cannot commute in the evening hours. So once it gets to Lagos, then you really all the bets are off. And that's the concern that investors are having. They are not seeing a clear indication that Nigeria has a handle on this crisis. And unfortunately, it's snowballing and worsening. We are seeing multiplicity of social crises that are beginning to impinge on the country's standing as an investment destination. And look at what is going on within the West African region. You observe that the Speaker of the U.S. Federal House of Representatives was in Ghana. You've not seen any world leader come to Nigeria in the past 2 years. And these are indications of how even investors will also relate with the country. So for investors, we need to put our house in order. Otherwise, the actual investment that will come will be far different from what the kind of commitments that people are making to invest in the country. Because there's a lot of difference between the decision and indication to invest and the final investment decision that a company will make to invest in a particular country or a particular sector. You need to be sure that, one, the safety of your investment is assured, but most importantly, the safety of your personnel. Then, once you have a heightened level of insecurity that relates to people, then nobody wants to come to that environment.
Dr. Obadiah Malafia just came into the studio, and let me find out from him what he really thinks about what we're discussing. So just hang on there in Lagos. Dr. Malafia, welcome to the program, and thanks for joining me. We're speaking about the state of the Nigerian economy, especially in the face of what is happening across the nation. For any sane person, that person will definitely know that there is a link between, or there is a relationship between what happens in your country totally and how it will affect the economy. If you take Sudan, for example, nothing so much will be happening in Sudan. In Hong Kong, the protests that have been going on has affected even the stock market and all of that. In fact, yesterday, the world's billionaires lost about $117 billion because of the market mayhem that happened. So for Nigeria, Nigerian economy that is just recovering, because we're recovering, a growth of 2% is nothing to write home about compared to the number of people we are and compared to our population growth. So talk to me about your own assessment with what's happening. We've seen Mr. Chuwu in his earlier analysis this say the Shiites protest here in Abuja, the insecurity situation, Revolution Now protest across the country yesterday. For me, I did say at the beginning that what I've been seeing lately is just that I really don't want to go into all of that. Let me leave my other colleagues to talk about it. But I will also speak about it because it affects the economy and it affects our reputation. It's not pretty optics for me as a person, and let alone those watching. What do you think, sir?
Yes, Nancy, you're very right. It's not pretty optics at all. You see, Nancy, there is what they call confidence.
Yeah.
You can't quantify it, but it's a real factor. It drives economic development. It drives the stock market. Once people lose confidence, then they begin to scamper off. Even in Nigeria, we've lost something like 25% of capital inflows over the past year. We have lost something over 30% of stock market capitalization. And Ghana today has actually more capital inflows than Nigeria. Yeah. So obviously, the things that are happening are not good for the economy. I was pleased to hear that, you know, the government obeyed a court order to allow the leader of the Shiites to go for medical treatment in India. I think that is in the right direction. We should run our country on the basis of the rule of law, not the rule of the strong man or the strong woman, whoever. You know, so confidence is a very important factor. And the revolution now, you know, Cowry is somebody I respect, even though I don't always agree with his style or some of the things that he goes on about. But I think we live in a democracy, and if people want to protest, so long as they're not taking up arms, they have a right to make those protests, to make a point. The truth of the matter, and if we are going to be very honest with ourselves, Nancy, is that Nigerians as a nation don't feel that they have a future. And that is a very dangerous thing. For the first time, even the most certified patriots feel that somehow the country is not going in the right direction. And there's a loss of confidence in the future. And, you know, especially young people, when you talk to them, you know, the despair is very real. They feel that we, the oldies, have mortgaged their future. And young people these days are just scheming how to go to Canada or some other place or to European El Dorado or whatever. So the future looks very bleak indeed. And you see, I cannot sit here and blame President Muhammadu Buhari for everything. It's all about us as a country and what kind of country we want to create and what kind of nation we would love to live in. But of course, the buck stops with him. You know, Boris Johnson said the other day as Prime Minister that the buck stops with me behind that black door, and he meant number 10 Downing Street. So ultimately, the buck stops with the president. He sets the tone. He creates the atmosphere. that allows, industry, business to flourish.
Now, as a follow-up question, do you think that the government is handling all those things well? Because, for me, anyway, I'm not part of the presidency, neither am I in the corridors of power.
You are in the corridors of power, Nancy. You are a very powerful woman. This program that you do make you very influential, and I've always said it. You're one of the best we have
Thank you very
in
much,
this
Doctor.
sector.
Thank you very
so,
much.
So, you've done well, and we're proud of what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
We don't have to carry public positions
yeah.
to be leaders. You're a leader in your sphere. And I try to be a leader in terms of being a public intellectual. So there is always something we can do. It's not about the titles that we hold. So all of us have a part. But to be honest with you, the government is facing a crisis of legitimacy.
Do you think, because my question is,
yes.
Do you think that the government is handling it well? Where I was actually going to
yes.
is that if I am the president,
yes.
I would think, okay, if I'm going to take this decision, what are the consequences of this decision? Decision
yes.
A, decision B, decision C.
Exactly.
And I weigh the pros and the cons and take a look at the risks.
Yes.
Also, perhaps I'm also thinking like a private person
No,
or
but
someone.
you're very right. I don't think the government
you know,
is handling it well.
What will be the consequences?
Yes.
How are my citizens going to feel?
Exactly.
What are the international investors looking at
yes.
this time? What is the signal? In fact, whatever thing you do, there's a signal
yes.
out there. Whether it's
Absolutely.
good or bad, and people will read it in different ways.
No,
I don't know
to
whether
answer
I'm just
bluntly
in
to
my
your
world
question,
of my own.
to answer bluntly to your question, Nancy, honestly, they've handled it very badly. First of all, in the way even public policy is made. One day you wake up, you hear cattle colony. People say, no, we no go agree. You wake up the next day and you say, Ruga. And people say, no, you no go agree. So you now suspend it and you wait to ambush them with something else. How can you run a country like that? I don't know who is really advising him on economic policy. I don't know. Because, honestly speaking, they've not advised the president very well. Policy is being run very badly. People feel excluded. And people have reason to believe that government is driven by private agendas rather than the agenda of the common good. If you are elected in a democracy, you don't run a government as though you are a kind of caliph. You run a government that is truly accountable to all the people and that you explain your policies. Now look, the duty of a leader is to take tough decisions. Sometimes tough decisions must be taken. Decisions that people will abuse you. You must have a very tough skin. But you must have the moral courage to explain to people the logic and the reason behind those decisions. And you must carry the people along so that, there is a belief in what you're doing and there's a kind of buy-in to the project. We are not saying that. The government is not even engaging with the people. No, there's no such thing as actually engaging on a personal basis with the people of this country, with the women, with the youths, with leaders and so on. We're not seeing that. They just sit quietly and dole out policies. If people protest, they just wait and ambush them with something else. People don't feel that they're in ownership of their own country again. And that is why this protest, I think Cowry was wrong to call it a revolution. He should have called it something else, a kind of moral crusade or something. But the revolution smacks of violence and smacks of, because there's no such thing as a peaceful revolution. Revolutions since 1789 France have been very violent phenomena. So I could see why the government got very agitated, but I think it was wrong of him to clamp him down. When he had not even come out in the streets yet, he was just saying what he wanted to do. And he didn't say he was going to kill anyone. So I don't see why they arrested him. And the people who are busy killing people in the streets, Nancy,
Okay.
nobody is arresting them. You are arresting innocent people who are speaking their mind out of concern with what is happening in the country.
Mr. Chuwu is still there in Lagos. Mr. Chuwu, I haven't forgotten you, and Dr. Malafia has been speaking. You know, I'm really lost for words. And when it comes to a situation like this, you know, it's really so disturbing. The pictures that we continue to see, you know, on television and on social media. Dr. Malafia has answered that the government is not handling this well. You know, talking about even other governments across the country, he did mention Boris Johnson, and the picture that came to my mind was when Boris Johnson was going to the Queen's Palace to get inaugurated, to get approval from Her Majesty. And, you know, his convoy, his car, I saw a few people blocking Boris Johnson's car. They were protesting against, I think, climate change. They were environmentalists. And the UK police, the man on the bike just came down and just moved one of the guys, just, you know, moved him to one corner.
Sure.
I didn't see any forceful thing and all of that. People were still around the convoy. You can imagine if President Buhari is even traveling or going to the airport, for those of us that perhaps will be on the road at that time, we would not even see his brake light at all and all of that. What does this really signify for the country, the direction that we are really going? For a country that is still struggling to grow, for a country that had the least or among the least foreign investment into West Africa. Ghana is taking all of it. Doctor mentioned Ghana. A friend of mine traveled to Ghana and came back to tell me that, Nancy, if you go to Ghana now, there's a whole lot happening. I asked why. He said, every hotel you get into, you see foreign investors. That he even asked, what is happening? Are they events? He said, no. That the hotel people said, this is what happens on a daily basis.
Oh, yes.
Ghana now is now the secretariat of ACTA. That's the African Continental Free Trade Area. What is Nigeria losing? We are getting something wrong, isn't it?
Well, to say we are getting something wrong, the reality is that we are actually retracing our steps backwards. If you look at some of the parameters which measure the progress of any nation, ours in almost all the parameters are negative. Look at our level of infrastructure development. It has weakened. Compared the infrastructure development in the country to maybe in the 80s, during the last time of the civilian government of Jim Shagari, when we built some highways. I can remember some of the highways that were built then. And then our oil earnings was far below what it is today. Then look at our educational standard, our educational system. You will actually see that the collapse of public educational system. So you see the quality of education at the public schools have actually deteriorated. During my university days, I'm in University of Lagos, and we had several nationals of other countries that were students, fellow students in University of Lagos. You can't imagine any foreign student coming here to come and study in a Nigerian public school. Compare that to what is happening, compare Nigeria's education system to the Ghanaian education system. A lot of Nigerians are now sending their children to go and have their tertiary education in Ghana. Then look at our health system. We're not able to eradicate some of the basic, easily eradicable, communicable diseases. So if you look at our social fabric, look at the level of security system in the country today. I mean, in the past, you could actually travel. I used to travel as an undergraduate from Lagos to Ikire and Ife, but now you can enter Ibadan Ife Express Highway by 5 p.m. That is a major arterial route. Today, we are now talking of between Benin and Lagos, you could be on the highway and just people just open guns at few people without even trying to rob, just to kill people. Look at what's happening in the North Central. Then look at a state like Borno State, Adamawa State. I mean, during my early stage of my professional career, I used to go to states like that to go and interview candidates for employment. But who dare go to those places? Now we're dealing with a place like Zamfara State. I remember the last time I went to Zamfara State, we left Kano for a wedding in Zamfara in Guzo, and we left Kano by 4 p.m. and we went to Guzo. We finished the wedding in the night, and we came back to Kano that night. We left Guzo around 11 at night. Nobody dares do that today. So that's the level of deterioration we are witnessing in all facets of their social fabric. And if we do not stop that, nobody knows. Like I said, we're getting to a point where in economic terms we say the going concern concept of that company, that entity is in doubt. We just need to do something quickly to address this level of deterioration in our social fabric. Otherwise, nobody knows how it will end. I do not imagine that this country will continue to relate at the precipice for too long. Look at the level of unemployment. You're talking about 23% unemployment. And if you look at the youth unemployment, I'm sure it's something close to 60. Look at the level of poverty. You are saying about 94 million people are in abject poverty. More than 46% of the population is in abject poverty. And 5 people go into poverty every minute.
Every minute, 6
So,
people. Yeah.
yes, yeah. So these are not indicators of a country that will survive. We are moving towards what they call a fair state. And the area we found it, we are not being alarming. We're just stating the facts. And I think the government must take out the gauntlet and address some of these seemingly crises that we are actually allowing to fester and get to the point of a manageable level.
Okay, let me come back to Dr. Malafia. What should the government do at this point to solve these problems? Because we are almost at the edge. Like Mr. Chuwu said, a lot of things. If I start reading out the indices, they are not too good. And they are not my indices. Before, just like Mr. Chuwu said, before we start sounding, it will be as if we are alarmist. But we are not alarmist. Like I say, facts, facts don't lie. Numbers are there for us to see. The government would also say, oh, we're doing quite a lot. We're supporting MSMEs, we have conditional cash transfer, we're doing this, we're doing that. But from what most people in Nigeria are feeling, they're not happy, like you said. That sense of confidence is not there. I'm as a person, even as a journalist, I'm disturbed. I'm disturbed by seeing what is happening around, especially around the economy and people, people should be better. I was having a conversation with 2 gentlemen yesterday, and one of them did tell me that, Nancy, the only thing just holding me here yesterday evening was that I don't have the means. For those that have the means and you have the wherewithal, get out of this country. There's no hope. And the person telling me is a father of 2 children.
Yes.
So I saw the sense of hopelessness yesterday.
And Nancy, you don't even understand the gravity of the thing until you go to the villages. I grew up as a village boy. My father was a missionary and an evangelist, but I grew up in various villages. And I can tell you that the level of poverty and despair is unbelievable. It's unprecedented in the history of this country. People are being killed every day. Yesterday, in my hometown, Randa, in southern Kaduna, Sanga local government, these herdsmen militias, most of them foreigners, they're not Nigerians. When they speak, they're not Nigerians. They come in with guns, shooting, killing, beating up people. For the first time in 100 years, my hometown has never been invaded. It was the first time it happened in about 100 years. They invaded my ancestral hometown, Randa, attacking people and all of that. Things are extremely bad. As our brother here, our colleague said, on the highways, they just open fire. You see, people do that because it's not their country. And you see, we cannot...
Is it that it's not their country, or they've just taken it for granted that nothing will happen? Nothing will happen. They won't get caught. Nothing will happen.
No, Nancy, if it's truly a country, you won't do that. If it's truly in your heart, your country, you won't do that. You only do that when it's not your country and you owe nothing to anybody. That's the way I'm forced to conclude. So the government must give back the country back to its people in a moral sense, that people must take ownership of this government. They must identify with the government that it is their government and the government is working in their own interest. Because right now, it is not working in their own interest. It is working in the interest of some shadowy forces and private agendas. And that is very dangerous. It has never happened in this country. It's the first time we are seeing it. People, foreigners coming in, killing people, raping women, and nobody does anything about it. We cannot continue like that as a country. So to answer your question, we must give the country back to the people of this country so that the government has a change of mind, a change of heart. It does away with this feeling of exclusion. People feel excluded. They don't feel it is part of their government. It's a foreign government, and they don't identify with it. So if you want it for the people to identify, you must engage with the people, engage with the youth, engage with market women, engage with peasants, engage with everybody. Let everybody have a say. Let there be participatory democracy. Let people be free to express their views. We've lost so much ground as a country. And I can tell you, Nancy, from a purely systems analysis viewpoint, the country will not survive 10 years of this stupidity. We can't survive it. The country will collapse completely. So we've lost a lot of time. Things are worse than we think. All the geopolitical communities of this country are already making alternative arrangements. I can be very honest. If you go to Igbo land, they feel that they are no more part of Nigeria. If you go to Yoruba land, the same feeling is there for the first time in the history of this country. And so the red lines of history have been reached. If we don't do something about this country, the country will collapse. And already American war colleges, for the last 5-7 years, have been using Nigeria as the model of the failed state in their military war exercises. So if we don't wake up, we'll wake up tomorrow and there's no more Nigeria.
Okay, let me bring you Mr. Chuwu here. You've heard what Dr. Malafia has to say. What more do you have to say, especially at this time? Because my question earlier is that perhaps the government is not doing enough. The government may say, oh, we are trying our best. If you come to this, they will say this. Or, you know, there will just be critics anyway. Because I've heard some of the presidential aides say in different fora, perhaps in different programs, that, you know, if President Buhari does this, they will criticize. He does this, they will criticize. He does this, they will criticize. There will be criticisms anyway. You know, so what should the government do at this time? Because even the challenge of insecurity is facing us. And I did, you know, the way I take a look at this is that it could be anybody. It could just be anyone. That, in fact, the rich are are no longer exempted. Or those that think that they are in positions of power, they are high there. No one is exempted. Everyone is just like, you know, because we are so much a religious people. Religion is another ballgame. I don't want to enter it. The economics of religion in this country. It's that church and mosques, all of them will be following me. That's a different ballgame. But because we are so religious, people will say, my life is in God's hand. Let God be protecting me. I mean, covered by the blood of Jesus. But the government should do what they should do, isn't it? Insecurity all over. A woman was jogging, was in Lagos. She was kidnapped. I don't know if she has been found now. In Lokogoma here in Abuja, I'm being told that people just attack houses in the night, you know, and take cutlasses and butcher people's heads and all of that. How can this continue? What should the government do as a matter of urgency, just like Doctor said, to give Nigerians back the sense of ownership of their country?
To start with, the government should reconsider their purpose of being. The first lesson in leadership is that for you to lead, you must have a vision that will be of beneficial interest to those you are leading. I've heard doctors say that there's a disconnect between the leadership and the left. That people do not believe that the leaders are there in the interest of the masses or the citizens of this country. That people believe they have sub-agendas which the leadership of the country is driving. And that's the core of the problem we have today. The reality is that today there is no common shared value. And that is where the threat of disintegration is going to come from. Because the guy from the North Central does not have any common shared value with the guy from the Northwest or the Northeast. Neither is the guy from the Southeast sharing the same value of the country. There's actually no common interest. There's nothing that binds us together today. We don't have things we look up to. And these things you can look up to as a country. Either you're looking for economic prosperity, you're looking for social harmony, You are looking for a future that is promised to you, that you can relate with, you can key into. What we're seeing, if you look forward, if you look up in this country, you try to imagine what the future will look like. What you see is darkness. And that's where the concerns are, that people are not optimistic that tomorrow will be better than today. They are concerned that tomorrow things will worsen. And once you believe that the next day is going to be worse than the present day, you will not want to witness the next day. You look for a way of escape, an escape route. And that's what's happening. A lot of Nigerians are migrating to Canada, a lot of Nigerians are migrating to the United States. They are looking for wherever they can go to in this country. And those who cannot migrate to the country are looking for some level of commonality within their own groups or subgroups to ask a sort of kind of a place to run to and something they may call a place of safety. And that is why you are seeing the Igbos, like Dr. has said, agitating for the Biafran Republic. It's not too far, you will see the Yoruba agitating for the Oduduwa Republic, and the Niger Delta people are asking for Niger Delta Republic, because people are saying, look, the country cannot protect me, the country cannot provide me economic opportunity to express myself, to be gainfully employed. Under the current arrangement, I will not prosper, I will not live a good life, I run a high risk of being killed prematurely, and the government will not look after those who killed me. So these are not good, they are not good commentary for any country. They are indications of an impending calamity. When the doctor said that the country will not survive the next 10 years, because I started smiling because I have used such timelines in my private conversations. And I said, look, if you look at all the parameters, there is no way we will live like this for the next 10 years. The youth, let me tell you nothing. If you go to the NYC camp, you have more than 500,000 young men and women that are serving their nation. They have no hope of getting jobs when they finish their service. So you have people who graduated 4 years before you, they not gotten jobs. 3 years ahead of you, they not gotten jobs. And then you come out. Do you know what happens when youth corps are passing out of the national service? They are apprehensive. They go out there in trepidation because they don't expect that they will get jobs. They would actually prefer that they remain in national service and continue to earn 19,000 than to leave and go back to their homes. I've seen coppers who say to me that, look, I can't go back to my parents. I come from a poor home. I can't, they did everything, sacrificed everything to send me to school, and they were believing that once I finish, their life will be better. And I know I can't get anything when I go to the street. So they are worried they can't go back to their homes, they can't get a job, they can't get accommodation, they can't look after their aged parents. You think with that size number of people building up, that something will not give in? You have educated people that can easily sit in the corner of their rooms and make a bomb, that have no future. They are looking up to. And you think we will live like this forever? No. The answer is something we're given. And like I said earlier, I'm not being standing alarming, but I know that if you look at all the countries that went their separate ways, they're beginning to manifest those things. Those who come out of the country are seriously looking for, agitating for what they think will give them the protection, will give them what the nation gives to citizens. A nation gives citizens hope, a nation gives citizens security. That's the number one item. You must be sure that nothing will happen to you, because, and if anything happens in the country, will look after you. Two, a nation gives its citizens the opportunity to express themselves economically, or improve their standard of living. Yes, but unfortunately, the country is not giving you personal safety. The country will not go after those who kill you in case they are killed. The country is not providing you opportunity to be gainfully employed, to express yourself with your God-given talent. And then the country does not even provide you the basic things of good health care. The other day, I saw a woman that you guys advertised and showed on your program that you said had a spinal cord injury. You were looking for 8 million, and nobody, the only person that can actually take up those challenges. The country does nothing about it. The other day we talked about Christian Chuwu's case. He was a national captain, he was a national coach. Nobody said anything, but the president picked up the bill. So the country does not look after you. And that's where the concerns are. You hear stories that even people who are taking bullets on behalf of the country, the kind of stories they hear, that when they get injured, they say the country to come out and look after them. They don't see it. So we need to redefine the purpose of leadership. And that should be that the person who is in the leadership position is there to take care of the interests of those who is leading. And once you have that, people will key in. If you are ready to lead from the front, then people will want to follow you. People will now have a sense of optimism that the next day, because we are moving in a particular direction, a positive direction, the next day is going to be better than the previous day. But today, that is not in existence in the country.
Okay, we have less than 5 minutes to end the show. Let me come to Dr. Malafia for your closing remarks. And your closing remarks, I would also want you to link it if there's anything good right now that is out of the country. Because wherever you go to, it seems stories of despair, except a few stories. Even in the midst of all this gloom, there are still a few things happening. As you tell me your closing remark, are there some things that are good that we can build on?
Well, yes, but if I may, Nancy, our colleague said that, the country is breaking apart. In fact, spiritually, the country has already broken apart. Because half of the country is looking towards Saudi Arabia. The other half is looking towards Western civilization. And there's a big gulf. And that gulf has continued to deepen. You see, they say in marriage that divorce takes place spiritually before it manifests physically. By the time they start getting irritated with each other, everything irritates them, already they've broken apart. They are no more together. And this is really what has happened to the country. I have to be very honest. Even across ethnic and religious lines, when some of us grew up, we used to holiday in each other's homes. We used to be very close. We would have dinners together. Salah we celebrate. Christmas we celebrate. We don't do that anymore. We don't do that. So people have physically and spiritually gone their separate ways already. Is there any hope?
Is there any good story?
I'm sorry, I don't have any hope with the current crop of political elites that we have. Because they are very bankrupt intellectually as well as morally. They are very selfish and they are very unpatriotic. You see, he's talked about people finishing your national service. What is happening now is that if you are children of a big person, senator, traditional ruler, whatever, well-placed person, there are jobs waiting for you. They even give you, allegedly, employment letters at home. NNPC, NCC, CBN, they are no longer based on merit. It's only the children of the big people. Some of them hopeless with third class. They give them jobs. Whereas children of poor people with first class honors, they'll be hanging in doing yahoo and all those kind of hustling. So my hope is in the young people of this country. I've seen some very bright young people doing fantastic things in IT and all of that. I also take pride in what I see in Kannywood, Nollywood, and in Nigerian music and artists. That gives me hope, that there's a glimmer of hope.
Okay, Mr. Chuwu, just in a few seconds, your closing remarks. And the question is, if there are good business stories at this time coming out of the country, are there?
Well, not too many. What I would say is that we are only hoping on hope, and you know what that means. And hope is not a strategy. The leadership must have to buckle up. If you have time, I will give an example of what happened yesterday. And I quickly see that yesterday I was hearing a meeting of a board, and then we got a call that one of our staff was arrested in Uyo by a customer. And I told them, stop the meeting. We must get that lady released. And it's very simple. And I said, look, I will not sit as the board chairman of this company. And then a staff is arrested for doing the job of the company. And then we want to continue with the meeting, and the time was running out, and you get the lady detained. That's what we call leadership. That's what we're looking for our leaders. They should be able to stand in front of us. They should lead from the front. They should give us a clear vision. We need the leadership to provide hope. And the minimum we expect is that they would walk their talk. Today, we don't see the government government walk their talk. Unfortunately, Nancy, at all levels of government, when government make pronouncement, they will do this. People, Nigerians, dismiss with a wave of hand because they believe those things will not be done.
Okay.
That is the general level of governance.
Okay, I think Mr. Chuwu will leave it at that. Dr. Malafia will leave it at that. It's not a pretty one really for me, irrespective of before people say, oh, okay, you don't support government, you support no, but this is our country. But Mr. Chuwu, many thanks for joining me on today's show. Have a lovely day.